Hi, everybody. This is Leon the Realtor. Today I'm here at Express Title with attorney Kevin Plotkin, a wonderful attorney. I used him in the past. Wonderful job. I was very happy with the service. Kevin, thank you for having me
Of
over.
course.
And if you can share with us a little bit today about why is it sellers and buyers need the services of an attorney doing a real estate transaction?
Definitely. Well, in our case, we're not just title experts or, and a title attorney. We're a little bit of a jack of all trades. So, and that really comes, what I mean by that is we're familiar with corporate law and corporate transactions. We're familiar with probate and estate planning and probate administration, and a lot of other issues that are involved in real estate transactions, like condo and HOA law or FERPTA, and bankruptcy, for example. And these issues come up a lot in closings, and having the knowledge and experience in all those different areas can help resolve the issue that's going on in the real estate transaction where that may be a problem elsewhere, and they may not be able to get the closing done because they don't have that knowledge and experience.
That happened to me before with a client with the FRIPSA issue. They didn't want to sign off because they were like insisting that he's a legal resident, and eventually he was. It was a whole mess.
Mhm.
It was with a different company, and I wish I would have used you for this transaction, but that's what it was then. Can you share like a crazy story that you had in the past, something very unique that from your
Yeah.
experience?
Well, I'll tell you something we have going on right now. Well, first of all, on your issue that you just mentioned a second ago, for example, we would use what's called the substantial presence test to see if FERPTA applies to a foreign seller or not. So even though you may not be a U.S. citizen, you may still have enough presence in the United States to not have to have FERPTA applied to you. So that's
180 days, right?
correct, something along those. There's some other requirements, but for example, experience that we have going on right now, we have a $8 and $12 million commercial transaction going on. It's multifamily. It's two separate transactions, but it's really the same seller and the same buyer. It's just two different apartment complexes. Within the two different apartment complexes, one is 4 different folios, the other is 2. So if you're looking at it with the naked eye, you just think that's an apartment complex. They're all the same looking buildings. They're all right next to each other. But like I said, one is 4 and one is 2. So it's essentially 6 closings
Six closing in one transaction.
in well, yeah, within the two different transactions, there's 2 buildings and 4 buildings. They're each, one is over 100 units, one is about 75 units. So within those 6 closings, we have 6 different title searches, 6 different municipal lien searches, 6 different surveys. We have over 175 leases and tenant estoppels that we need to compare against each other to make sure they're the same things. That's all kind of normal run-of-the-mill stuff, but I'll tell you what's interesting about this transaction, which is we actually made it, the buyer wants to buy the real estate from and sorry, I forgot to mention, in the deal with the 4 different folios, 3 of them are owned by one LLC, one is owned by another. In the other property, that is the $8 million transaction, the smaller one of the folios is owned by one LLC, the other is owned by another. So you have 4 LLCs that are a seller selling 6 different buildings to a single buyer.
Sounds very complex. How do you
Yeah,
solve that?
exactly. So to add to that, we have the buyer who originally set out to buy the real estate from the seller. So there would be a deed from those LLCs transferring the name of the property, the title to the property, to the buyer. We actually made a suggestion to the client that, hey, if you buy the entire LLCs, right, there could be some great benefits there. So in this case, the only asset that each LLC owns is the building. So the one LLC that owns 3 buildings, it owns nothing else besides those 3 buildings, and the same thing for each.
Okay.
Which is important here. So they can buy the entire LLC, and what happens there is it saves the buyer on property taxes because the actual title to the property is not changing hands. It's the LLC that owns the property that's changing hands. That does not trigger a reassessment for property taxes.
So just transfer the ownership on the LLC.
Correct. The name on the deed, the title to the property remains the same of the seller, but we're just updating the LLC, changing the transfer of the ownership of who owns the LLC, not the actual title to the real estate.
That's amazing. That saves a lot of money for everybody.
Correct. It saves the buyer money because it does not trigger a reassessment for property taxes. It also saves the seller money because it doesn't trigger documentary stamp taxes, which happens when it's based on the purchase price.
Kind of like what you do with the subject too.
That's correct. Yes.
I want to thank you for
all right.
Thank
you for coming
information.
Of course.
Thank you so much. And if you need any information, if you need recommendations, I can hook you up. If you need to speak with Kevin, just give me a call, 954-225-4666, and I'll make the connection. Until the next time, thank you for your attention. Take care.